Hey everyone! Welcome to episode 4 of Behind the Practice, where we highlight people, products, and processes serving the dental community. This podcast is brought to you by DentiMax, and I'm your host, Alicia Dieujuste. Today we are so thrilled to have on Janice Janssen with Global Team Solutions, who is a certified fraud investigator and specialist. So, Janice, you and I have known each other now for like 4 years. It's been a hot minute.
Yes. And you know what? It's funny. It's the first time I heard you say your last name, and I'm like, oh, okay, good. Now I know how to pronounce
That's how
it.
you say it. I know. It's a tongue. It took me like years to get it down. My husband still makes fun of me, and we've been married 10 years now. So
I believe that.
don't worry about it. But I remember one of the first times I met you, I was like, tell me about yourself. And you're like, I do fraud. And it was one of the funniest moments. And I knew what you meant by that, but it was just kind of like, okay, that's a way to say it. So tell everybody about yourself, your background, and how you got into, consulting and what you're doing now.
Okay, yes. I do say that a lot, and it, leaves it up for me to explain that then.
Gets a good
Not
reaction, I bet.
right, right. So I actually started in dentistry when I was 14 years old. I assisted for a brand new doctor, and so it's really the only thing I know.
Yeah.
So,
It's your
um,
lifelong career.
that's right. That's right. So from that, I assisted for a while, and I did front desk, and then I went to hygiene school and became a
Hmm.
hygienist. And then I was in the office that I had started in originally, part-time, and then some weird things were happening there. He's like, I'm working really hard and I'm not taking a paycheck. I don't know what's going on. So,
Wow.
yeah, so I started to look into some things and ends up that he was getting embezzled. So that's where the passion for that came from. And I think in that too, so I started going out into offices, and I actually trained on Dentrix,
Hmm.
another software. And I just noticed that people didn't know what,
About
like,
their numbers.
they didn't know their numbers. They didn't know, to send statements every month, and just like all
Hmm.
of these processes that
Yep.
weren't getting accomplished. So I wanted to get out and consult so that I could tell people, hey, this embezzlement is happening, because nobody was
Yeah.
wanting to use passwords or anything like that. This was before HIPAA. But
Yeah, I bet they probably didn't even have usernames in their
no.
software. We still see that these days.
Yeah.
And it's like, you gotta have a user.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's well, or they use the same user for everything,
Hmm. Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my passion, to get out there, and then consulting just kind of came naturally along with it. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I go into offices now and help them put systems in place. Being a hygienist, I like a system. I like the direction,
Structure.
yes.
Yeah.
But that also helps a lot with the embezzlement part too, so it's nice to be able to put those systems in place so that the embezzlements, either they don't happen or they are caught very quickly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you started GTS how many years ago now? And you're one of the co-founders, right?
Right. So Denise Cardello is my business partner, and
Hmm.
we started it in October of 2010. And
Wow.
yeah, it was funny because people were like, "Oh, partnerships never work. Partnerships never work." And I'm like, "Here we are, 16 years later, it's still going." So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
No,
great.
that's fantastic.
Yes.
And I feel like there's I feel like there's still a disconnect for a lot of dental practices about embezzlement and fraudulent activity, and they're not, unless it's happened to them, I
Right.
think they just assume it's not going to happen to them,
Right.
and they're not looking for it. Is that kind of what you see out there in the field, that it's just
It,
not a highlighted thing to pay
yeah,
attention
it
to?
really is, and it's strange that that is happening. Because I mean, statistics show that it's happening in at least 60% of dental offices. So
What?
Yeah. And
Wow.
what's amazing to me is that sometimes it happens more than one time in the same practice. So, it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to get some systems going here. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
60%. That blows my mind.
I know.
I,
And the average is $100,000. So, I mean, it's probably even more than that at this point. But yeah, I'm like, that's a big chunk of change there that you're missing out on. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Especially imagine being like a brand new dentist just starting
right,
out. That's
right.
like all your chunks of change. That's
Yeah,
everything put together when you're new.
exactly. Well, and that's, some of the new doctors that are buying practices and taking
Mm-hmm.
them over, a lot of
Yep.
times they keep, the team and stuff like that. And it's like, although I will
Right.
say that the younger doctors are much more savvy on the computer and, will look
Yeah.
into that stuff more often than the older doctors
Mm-hmm.
would have. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just curious from your perspective, because working at DentiMax and I started here as a trainer and I was part of the team that would go help them set up their system and all of that. So I've seen a little bit of hesitancy for people, again, just baseline things to set up users and put
Right,
passwords in for those users.
right.
Why do you think that is?
So I think part of it is they don't want their team to think they don't trust them.
Mm,
Um, but the other part of that is it seems cumbersome
hmm.
that I have to put my password in or my username in every single time, which I understand. Sometimes it can be,
Yeah.
but my thing is that otherwise, how do we know who's doing what?
Right.
And I'll tell you, the embezzlement that happened in the office that I worked in, she was a very good friend of mine,
Wow.
so it could have it could have happened. I mean, I probably would have given her my password if she asked for it, and so I'm
Yeah.
like, um, you just don't know what's happening in somebody's life in order to
Hmm.
for them to start doing that. So you have to be really careful. And a lot of the dentists are like, "Oh, I know my team. I know, the people that work for me." Yeah, you do, but sometimes
Hmm.
things happen in their life and they aren't either they're not sharing or they are sharing and you sometimes I mean I with the one in our office, we were all trying to help her,
Wow.
and
Right.
so yeah. So you just I think you have to get away from that cumbersome part. If you go into a medical office, they have to put their password in every time. But it's just really important to do that just to cover yourself and to cover the employees. It's a protection for everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And also, there are what I've found on my side of the coin is there's a lot of dentists who are like, I don't want my staff running reports and looking at certain numbers and knowing how much money we make. And
Right.
so, the ones that lean into having a username usually are kind of really far in the other direction.
Right.
I think because of the two-factor authentication and everything has a username and a password to it these days.
Yes.
I see a slow change, but
Right.
definitely there's still a lot of resistance,
Yeah. And I think that's still
especially,
because it's like I
yeah.
don't want to have that cumbersome on us too,
Mm,
and I understand that, but you're setting yourself up. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't want to work in a practice at this point that doesn't have the
mhm.
passwords because I want to be able
Yeah.
to see, I want you to be able to see, was it me or was it somebody else? And I tell my teams too, I'm like, don't share your password.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't give the person the pin to your ATM card, then they don't need to have your password. So,
Yeah. That's a really good litmus test right there. That's super valid. I looking at my own behavior, I trust my team too, and I could totally see me being in the spot where you were at with your coworker and being friends, and if she
right.
asked you for your password, you would have given it to her. Also, I think I know we're like kind of meandering here, but talking about usernames, I'm the kind of person where if I'm doing something incorrectly in the software, I want someone to tell me. so I
For
can
sure.
correct my behavior.
Right.
And if there's no user tracking on it, there's no way to see who did it wrong. And
Right.
I think there's a lot of people who think, well, they're just looking for someone to blame something on and pin this on someone. But I think a lot of people miss the point that it's a learning opportunity, and you should want to get better at what you're
Right.
doing every day.
Right. Yeah. What don't you want to be proficient? I'm one that likes to be proficient in what I'm doing. I have a program that I call RAM that's risk analysis and monitoring.
Hmm.
And with that, I go in once a quarter and look at their audit trail and their reports and that stuff.
Yeah.
And what I find a lot of times is those things, just like you're saying, is it's like, well, if you did it this way in the system, then this you
Hmm.
wouldn't have this problem, or you don't need to delete these. You can just
Right.
change it this way. So that's a lot of what that program gives you is just that
Hmm.
you could just do it differently and be more efficient with it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny the lengths that people go to think they're like cleaning up their data, but in reality, they're creating more chaos and they don't realize it.
Yes, yeah. The cleanup
Yeah.
data always scares me. I'm like, oh God,
Uh-huh.
what are we doing?
Yes. It's like we need a weekly housekeeping appointment on the schedule for everyone to just do it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
funny.
at what point did you find that you really loved and gravitated towards the numbers and the research part? I mean, obviously, there came a use case for you to have to learn
Mhm.
it, but
Right, right.
you wouldn't have stuck with it if you didn't really enjoy it. So, where
Yeah.
did that come in?
Well, it's really funny because before I started working in the dental office, which again I was young, but
Right.
and even kind of in that beginning, I was going to be an accountant.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to be. So I always did like numbers. Numbers was always a thing for me. And I
Hmm.
think when I started investigating the embezzlement at that office, I was just like, you know what? I love this, And it's kind of like, you're a detective trying to find it,
Yep.
I'm like, you got to pull that one string and then
Hmm.
you'll get you'll get where that money's going.
So, what I hear you saying is you love murder mystery movies.
I do. I do. Except when I
That's
can't figure
awesome.
it out, then I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
like, how long does it take you to catch a fraudulent activity usually?
it really depends on it. I will say it depends on the software and it
Hmm.
depends on the user, if they've got the usernames set up.
Right.
Um, but I would, it's different every single time. I mean, sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, wow, that's what's happening, and then other
Yeah.
times it has taken me a good week probably just to figure out what's going on, where I can tell the money's gone. Now where did it
Right.
go? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ever been a situation, Janice, where you think you're like, for sure it was this, and then as you're like finding the evidence, you're like, no, I was wrong. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, it has. It has. And there's other times when I'm looking and I'm like, I'm for sure this person's embezzling and I
Yeah.
can't find any evidence of it. I mean, it sounds like she is, but
Right.
I can't find that. And that's pretty rare because usually at some point it gets overwhelming to cover that up, So, but a lot of times, like I said, if there's not the usernames or,
Hmm.
if I can't tell who's doing it, then that makes it a little tough. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How many fraud cases have you identified,
Oh gosh.
or embezzlement, I should say?
Yeah, I would say probably 100 by this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 100. And not all of them, I didn't find embezzlement in all of them. Some of
Hmm.
them I was
Hmm.
just like, well, they just need to do it this way and not that way. They're doing things wrong, and that's
Hmm.
that's what the problem was. Or they're just not doing the job. A lot of
Yeah.
times I get it to where they're like they must be embezzling, and I'm like, no, they're just not. I
Hmm.
don't know if they can't keep up or if things are just not getting done, so
Right, right.
statements aren't going out or they're not collecting at time of service, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
For
Once you start
sure.
collecting, it's like, oh, well, the money wasn't gone. It just was hanging out there.
Right. We just didn't ask the patient for it. So
Right.
yeah, I guess that would be a red flag. If statements aren't going out, are you just not doing your job, or are you hiding that they already paid and it's not on their account? And
Right.
if money's not being collected, are you just not doing your job, or are you hiding that you pocketed the money?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, it could go either way, and that's the whole thing.
yeah.
You have to figure out which way it is.
How long do you see that a doctor usually waits before they reach out to someone like you who can help them unravel their messy situation?
Uh, that depends on the doctor too,
Yeah.
and how closely they're monitoring things,
Mhm.
because sometimes it just takes them a really long time. If they're not looking at reports and that kind of thing, then
Yeah.
they don't know it's happening. But I think people are catching it quicker now, than
Okay.
they used to. Because if you think
Good.
about it, like with the ledger cards and that we had back in the day,
Right.
how
Right.
do you find that? That's a tough one.
Yeah. Yes.
It is a
Yeah.
little, it's easier to me on the computer, but it's funny when
For
I
sure.
first started doing investigations, I was talking to an accountant and he's like, I just can't find it on the computer. He's like, I can look at ledgers and I'll find it right away, but he said I'm not finding it. And so that was years and years ago, but I was like, really? How'd you find it on there? Because I can't imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no. It would kill me to have to sift through papers and ledger cards, and
Yes.
oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely technology is making it harder, I think, for people, as
Right.
long as it's used and
Yeah.
set up correctly. Why do you think that good employees sometimes make bad decisions to embezzle, or to just not do their
Not a
job
good
if they're
job.
not doing the work? Yeah, what's
Yeah.
your perception
So
on
as
that?
as far as not doing the work, sometimes I think that there's too much to do and they can't. They just can't get it done.
Mhm.
Sometimes too, that what I find is they get themselves in a pickle. They've got all of these outstanding insurance claims or whatever, and now it's too overwhelming
Yeah.
for them to go and do it. So that's a lot of that. Sometimes I think it's just indifference to their job. At some point too, it's they're
Mhm.
frustrated with their boss or something. They're feeling like
Right.
they're overworked or whatever. And
Right.
sometimes you'll see that with an embezzlement, but most of the time the embezzlement is because there was some kind of need. They
Mhm.
had a gambling addiction, or they're doing drugs, or their husband lost their job. Those are where you see most of the time where there's an embezzlement with somebody that was a good employee that all of a
Yeah.
sudden just switched it up. Some of them are, I call them career criminals. They're going to do
Right.
it, no matter what.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of times it's because they developed some type of need and they see the opportunity there. You know, that's
Yeah.
if the doctors aren't checking, then it's like, okay, well,
Made
they
it
know
too
that they can
easy.
do it. Yes, exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And a lot of times it's I'm going to borrow it and I'll put it back at my paycheck, and then nobody saw that it was missing, and then it just kind of
Cycled.
like,
Then it
yeah,
happened
goes
again. Well,
downhill. And
nobody noticed last time. Really need the money again. Let me
yes.
just take a little bit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. A lot of
Wow.
times I will find it was like $100
Mm.
to start. And then like I can see where it started, and I'm like, yep, they were just trying it out. Didn't happen again for a couple months, and then
Are there warning signs that the doctor maybe misses, that was like right in front of their faces, that they should have been paying attention to? Or
well, I mean, a lot of it is paying attention to the reports and,
yeah.
is what's in the computer in your bank.
Right.
Like
Right.
if those aren't matching, and not that I tell people all the time, don't think they're going to match exactly every single
Day
month.
by day.
They're
Right.
not, but you can track it down. And if you're starting to see thousands of dollars that is not getting entered into the bank, then
Yeah.
that's when you want to start paying attention and to go backwards,
Hmm.
make sure that January still is the same number as what you have in your bank.
Yeah, rerun it for
Yeah.
sure. Curious, aside from the friend embezzling,
Uh-huh.
was there another moment in your career that changed the way you viewed just trust in the workplace, and what shaped your view on trust?
Yeah, that was the first time that I was like, wow, but going out into offices and nobody wanting to use passwords and that's when I started
Hmm.
getting afraid of the trust. It's like trust but verify, let's
Yeah.
let's make sure, make sure that what is being done is really getting accomplished because I see people check mark things all the time on their little checklists and they didn't do it today, so
Hmm.
but that's where I find, again, I trust people. I'm probably too easy to trust, but then I'm also going to back that up and make sure that they're trustworthy. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
When you work with a practice, how long do you usually how long are you on site for? How long are you engaged with them? What length of time do you usually consult with them?
So consulting, usually we have a 6-month contract and we have a
Hmm.
year-long contract. And so it just depends on what they need. Some offices it's like we just need help with this insurance. We don't know what we're doing here. Or we got a
Yeah.
new person, something like that. And then we have a couple of offices that we started with December of 2010 and we still have them. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, it's just gotten to be one of those things where it's like they're like, you're the liaison between us and our team, and it just works out.
Hmm.
Um, and so we go in once a month to our offices. So
Okay.
we'll go in there, put some protocols in place this time, and then I call them, or Denise calls them once a week just to see,
Hmm.
are you calling on insurance? What's happening? And
Yeah.
then we'll go back in the next month and put new protocols in place. And,
Yeah.
just you can't do it all at one time. In the offices that we go into all the time, it's funny because just last week we were in one of those offices. I said, well, things seem like they're doing really good. I don't know what we're going to do today. Sure enough, there was something that came up that we had to
Uh,
take care
Here
of.
you go. We
So,
saved this for you.
yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You're like, oh, everything's looking great. We're checking boxes. We're good. No, wait,
That's right.
here's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
No,
always something to do for
there is.
sure.
There's always something, so
Hmm.
and there's always changes in the dental field and the
Yeah.
regulations and stuff like that. So that's one of the other things. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing with your spore tester? And just checking
Hmm.
on those things to make
Right.
sure those things are getting done, So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that you're this jack of all trades, having been in the dental office. You're like, and what about that? And what about your OSHA? How about compliance? How about your financials? It's like, how about your recall? Like you're full
Yeah.
circle here on
Yeah.
all the
I
dental needs.
I love having that overview too, because with recall, and it's funny, I have hygienists a lot that are like, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time. I'm like, well, looks like you had an hour right here in a cancellation. So, and for me, I liked calling
Hmm.
recall because I call them and, hey, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You don't want to see me anymore?
Right.
I had no problem with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, just have fun with it. Don't make it such a chore because they're your
It's
patients. They like talking to you most of the time. So
Yeah, it's really funny how the aversion that's been created by picking up the phone and calling someone these days. It's like,
yeah,
ew, I have to No, I don't want to call. I'll just text them.
yeah. I had somebody say that to me. She's like, "Why are we going to do that?" And I said, and she's young, and I was like, "Well, some people like a phone call." She's like, "Can't we just text them?" I'm like, Okay, let's do alternating. One time text them, one time call them. So,
Oh, that is so funny. How
yeah,
things have changed.
it has, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, for sure.
Circling back to the doctor, because most of the time, obviously not always, but most of the time the doctor is the practice owner,
Right,
and he or she is generally the one setting up the rules, the system, or trying to have a system.
right.
So what do you think the doctor can do to hold everyone accountable and make sure there is a system, but let them feel like they're trusted as well? Because I do know that is a big concern for a lot of dentists, is they
Sure.
don't want their staff to feel under their thumb.
Yeah.
What do
And
you recommend for that?
we don't want them to feel like that either because
No.
that micromanaging feels really icky, you know.
Give people wings to fly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big part of that is then just looking every once in a while to make sure that everything's getting accomplished that you want. You know, when was the last
Hmm.
time phone calls were made?
Right.
But also checking the reports, you know,
Hmm.
because that's the biggest thing. And my thing is ask questions.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so I see Alicia didn't pay today for that
Hmm.
crown. Why didn't we collect anything? Just asking a question and just so that they know you're paying attention.
Hmm.
I have everybody, well, now some of them I'll just print them to PDFs and put them in a folder, but they
Right.
print their day sheet or whatever. And I had one that she's like, I went back in there after a few months and she was putting the day sheets under her desk. And I said, why are they not going to the doctor? Because to me,
Hmm.
that was the rule. They go to the doctor. And she's like,
Yeah.
because they just throw them in a box and then I can't find them when I need them. So I'm like, don't do that. You know,
Right.
have a
Right.
filing system and ask the questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I don't want to micromanage anybody either.
I think probably no, the doctors that I've known and have worked with, I could see if they haven't done it in the past and now they want to start having a little accountability for those sorts of things, it can
Right.
be an awkward start to the conversation. How would you recommend they begin that so it doesn't look like I don't trust you, but it looks more like we need systems? How do you
Yeah.
recommend they approach that?
A lot of times I'll say just, you know, say that you were in a class or you saw a podcast or
Yeah.
something like that. And I want to try this out for a little while and see how it
Yeah.
goes. The biggest thing is being consistent and keep doing it.
Yes.
Because what I find a lot of times when I go into the offices is it's like, well, we start something and then it's over in 2 weeks. Be
Right.
consistent and keep it up. That's the biggest thing that because if you're always putting new things out there, then and it just falls off, people
Hmm.
aren't going to take it as seriously. So make sure to keep up with it and ask the
Yeah.
questions. I didn't get my day sheet today. Where's that at?
Right.
So just ask.
Yep. Yep.
Don't feel like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the asking questions is probably the critical part, because if they get it and they look at it, but then they're not questioning things, and
Right.
then one day out of the blue suddenly they do question it, then it gives this feeling of
Oh, he doesn't
you're
trust me. She
targeting
doesn't
me, you don't
trust
trust me. Yeah,
me.
exactly. So
Right.
I do think you're right.
Yeah.
They could be doing the work, but if they're not closing the loop, so to speak, on it
That's
and
right.
asking the questions when something doesn't come full circle.
Right. Well, and it doesn't even have to be like for me when you're asking the questions, I'm like, you may know the answer already.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, the doctor may know
Yeah.
the answer already, but just go ahead and ask the question so that
Hmm.
they know that you're paying attention to what is happening in your practice.
Would you say this is the biggest thing that the dentist should be doing to avoid making mistakes when it comes to embezzlement, is checking and looking at your reports and asking questions, or is there anything else that you would recommend they do as well?
Well, that and making sure that it balances with the bank. My big thing is the reports, but also having, if you have that person that is very controlling and doesn't want anybody else to do their job, or, you know, those are
Hmm.
things to watch for because
Mm.
if you don't want
Yeah.
somebody else doing your job, is there a reason? I mean,
Right.
sometimes the reason is they're just a control freak and they want
Right.
they want it done right. I understand that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it's because they're trying to cover something up and they don't want anybody else seeing that, Banks actually require you to take 2 weeks off. You are required to take 2 weeks off because that's a lot of times when they can find errors in the system.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, you have to take some time off and work because then somebody else is doing their job. And that's a lot of times when things get highlighted.
Identified.
Yeah, somebody will call and that person's not there to answer the phone and it's hard in a dental office because we're such a small, I mean, a lot of times it's very limited on your employee, but
Right.
if you can have, the doctor should always take the deposit to the bank. If you're not using the check machine and that kind of thing, that's my big thing is they should be taking that deposit to the bank and actually take it to the bank. Don't leave it in your car.
Oh my God, please don't leave it in your car. To that point, how often do you recommend the doctor takes their deposit in? Is this, in your opinion, is it a once a week thing? Is it every day, every other day?
So I don't necessarily care. I would say once a week at least. But if they have all of the deposits separated by days, that's my big thing is don't put some of today's with yesterday's. Don't, because that's when it's really hard to balance that out and see where money is missing. So if you can keep it all just today's done, now we move on to tomorrow, then as long as they're depositing those separately, I don't care if they go every 2 weeks at that point, just as long as I can see that they're all separate deposits.
Day by day.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There may be, some newer dentists listening to this podcast at some point. I know most of the software systems out there. In my view, I would say, what's your deposit slip say in your practice management software at the end of the day?
Right.
Does that match what was written down on your bank deposit slip?
Right. And your credit card.
In your credit card terminal.
Yeah. So that's the thing is you need to get your deposit slip, your bank deposit, and your credit card batch so that you can see everything that went in there or that should be going in. And a lot of times you'll start to see that the credit card deposit hits tomorrow or it'll hit 2 days later. So you can see that that's happening. But
right. Have you ever found or had a situation where someone has somehow embezzled from the credit card stack, so to speak?
Yes. So that's something that you want to watch is refunds. Because some of the credit card companies do not require that credit card to have been used in order to refund it.
Oh.
So I had one that was refunding her debit card from the office.
Sneaky. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I did not even think that was a thing. Wow.
Yeah. So you want to watch any refunds I'm like on your merchant statement, see if there's any refunds. If they are, then are they legitimate? Did you know they were going through and are you seeing them on your deposits?
Yeah. Are they consistently going back to the same last 4 digits of this card number?
Exactly. Why is this number
might be a red flag. Yeah. Are there any other big red flags like that you could give tips to the dentists who might be watching?
My biggest thing is watching on cash. We don't see a lot of cash anymore, but you start to kind of know the people that do pay cash. So really pay attention to that because that's the easiest thing to do. But also padding the time clock is another thing. You got to watch that too because sometimes people stay longer than they give their password to their friend to clock them in or clock them out. And so those are things to pay attention to as well. Amazon, if you order from Amazon,
purchases. Yeah.
Watch what's going through your Amazon account too, because sometimes that, I might need toilet paper for home and I'll just get that delivered here. So,
Oh my goodness, that's so true. I didn't even
yeah.
think about that
So your
as,
purchases you do,
yeah.
you want to watch your credit card purchases and that kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you just never know, but Amazon's one that I'm seeing a lot of lately because they're signed into the Amazon account and,
Yeah.
ordering paper, pens, whatever. And yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you're seeing a little extra being added.
Ooh, sneaky, sneaky.
Yeah,
Like, wow. Yeah, this sounds like a full-time job.
that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. Yeah. And that's why I think dentists stop paying too much attention to it, And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you may have an accountant that is looking at that. I've had some accountants that are really good at paying attention to all of that stuff. But then I've got
Mm-hmm.
others that they don't look at anything. They don't look at any reports from your software or anything like that. They're just balancing it out. And so
Wow.
you really have to know what they're looking at. And if they're not, then either you need to look at it or have somebody that's looking at it that's not sitting at your front desk in your practice. Because
Right. Not the same person doing the work every day. You
yes,
have to have
exactly.
checks and balances.
Yes, yes. Some people will have their spouses or something like
Hmm. Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but they have to know what they're looking at too. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Definitely. I think even to that point, if you have someone more on the outside who looks at that stuff, they can more easily spot the things that don't fit the normal
right,
pattern.
right.
Yeah. Like
Well,
you
that's
always buy these, and then suddenly there's this thing that's,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
they can more quickly
where
identify
did
it.
this come from? And
Hmm.
like when I'm doing either my RAM or an investigation, it's like, okay, should this person have gotten a credit? Because it doesn't say that they're family anywhere. So it's like,
Hmm.
should they have been getting that adjustment? And that's the thing to look for too, is the adjustments. So do you see adjustments on people that shouldn't be?
Yeah.
With the
Write-offs,
PPOs, it's hard.
courtesies.
You have to really pay attention to that because they can
Yeah.
get high. Those adjustments can get high.
Absolutely. We actually have a report in our software that you can run by code. So you can kind of see like what's the total amount of adjustments for this specific adjustment code, not just
Right.
all adjustments. If you're just looking at the total dollars, it doesn't paint the whole picture.
No, right, right. You want to look at the type of adjustment so that you can see
Yeah.
was it professional courtesy. But then the other thing is doing some spot checks on those too with your, if
Hmm.
you're in Delta Dental, I
Yeah.
like to look at those bigger ones and see is that really legitimate? And the dentists will know if they've done a bridge or something or an implant and know that
Right.
it might be a larger adjustment, but those are things to watch out for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of all goes back up to the nature of the dentist and the dentist's personality because there's a lot of dentists I know that they just tell their staff if the patient balks at this fee that they owe,
Right.
just write it off or give them a 50% off. And I could see that creating a trap for themselves that they don't realize they're creating.
It does. It does. And that's anybody that does an adjustment, I want them to put their initials behind it.
Yeah.
That I can go back and say, Alicia, why was this adjustment made? But also that's on the other side of that is the doctors that say, give all the cash to me.
Hmm.
You're setting yourself up again. If you're not doing it appropriately the way that it should be done, then your team feels like they don't have to necessarily do that. So you have to really watch. You can get in trouble with the IRS. I just heard of a story of somebody here in St. Louis that did that years ago that they
Really.
got in trouble with the IRS. Yeah, but so not only that, but also you're opening it up to your team
Hmm.
taking that
You're
cash
setting an
and they gave it up,
expectation.
yeah.
Right. You've got to be careful for sure of people don't do well with rules are for me to make and for you to follow.
Yeah.
And I
Doesn't
think
always
a
work well.
lot no. And a lot of practice owners think, well, it's my practice, so I should be able to tell them you do it this way, but I'm going to do what I need to do on the side. And I think they miss the point that the staff feels like the doctor is part of the team, not separate from the team, even though they're the practice owner in a lot of
Right.
cases,
Right.
that it is setting an example for
It
the rest of
is.
the team. Yeah.
It is. And you have that example, right? I mean,
Yep.
we all watch what's happening around us to know what is
hmm
okay.
Have you ever gone into work with a practice and couldn't get the dentist on board with, putting systems and structure in place?
Yes. Several.
What do you do, Janice?
Well, it depends, but some of that is. Well, I had one that it was like the team was like, well, as soon as you leave, the doctor changes it. Or so then I talked to the doctor and I was like, okay, just please try it this way until we get back so that
hmm
we can see, does this work or does it not? If it doesn't
hmm
work, I'm fine. Then let's go ahead and
Adjust.
change it up. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that, but we got to give it time to work.
hmm
And some dentists we've had to say, you know what, this isn't working. I mean, I
hmm
can't help you because I
Right.
need you to help yourself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The method of accountability doesn't work if you're not following the method. Yeah.
So, yeah, it has happened. Not too often, and it's kind of funny because I think we figured out when we talk to them on the phone or something that who that person's going to be. It's like, oh, that's maybe
hmm
maybe not a good match. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Curious with GTS,
Uh-huh.
do you have a program that a dentist, if he wants to just learn how to better watch his financials and understand reports, do you have a carve out just for the dentist by themselves?
We do. We do. We have
Okay.
we call it executive coaching. And
Okay.
it's generally just all online like this.
Yeah.
We just do a meet and so when we don't have when it's just one-on-one, it's easy, but going into the offices, we have to see people face to face, but yeah, so I've done that. We've done that many times where we just have a couple of coaching sessions and these are the
hmm
reports you're looking at and we'll have them pull the reports before getting on the call so that we can look and see what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, great. If you had to sum up your top 3 tips for a practice owner to watch for embezzlement, fraud, that sort of thing, what are your top 3?
My top 3. Well, watch to see if people are acting differently or living outside of their means, or do they have some, and then you start seeing some weird things as far as missing money. Also, one of my big tips would be to separate it out. Take your deposits. Don't have the office manager or whoever's entering that money. I mean,
hmm
if it's one person entering the money and somebody else taking it, okay, fine. But we want to have that double check there. And then really look at your reports. I
Look
mean,
at your reports.
and ask questions. Ask questions. you know,
Definitely.
yes.
Is there any systems you found or any method where you're like, I can't help you with that? Or are you good with any system, practice management software that they're
Oh,
using?
um, I can usually figure it out. In most, some of them are harder than others.
Harder
So
than others. Yeah.
then I'm like, oh goodness, okay. But
You've got an
no,
account, you've got a patient, you've got a subscriber.
what is going on? Yes, you have 3 people for one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, for the most part, I can find the reports that I need. I actually, as I've gone along, I've made cheat sheets for each software so that
Yeah.
I know which reports there are and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I could find it anywhere, but the
I
ortho
believe in
systems are
you.
a little hard. Thanks. The ortho ones are a little harder because I'm like, whoa, that is a lot going on in there. But because I just don't know it as well. But
Yeah. Is it quarterly payments we're getting or annual
right,
or
right.
monthly
Yeah.
or
You have to really dig in a little bit more.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In your experience, how can embezzlement impact the morale of a team
Oh,
once they've identified that that's happened?
Yeah, most of the time it brings the morale down, at least for a little while, because you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I can't believe that person, did this. But it can be brought up at that point. Then
Hmm.
it's like, okay, because you've got, like a lot of times I see the team is like, there's one person for sure on that team that's like, I want to help. I want to get this. I want to get it right. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
so there is an upswing, but you do, my thing is you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't,
Okay.
don't, I mean,
Don't hide it.
don't hide it. Now don't go out and be telling all your patients and all of that. We don't want to get a defamation
Right.
suit.
Right.
But talk about what's happening in the office so that people
Hmm.
are, because otherwise they're just talking to each other and
Gossiping.
nobody knows what's happening, right? So have the conversation and from there too, then it's like, okay, what system, bring your team on board. My thing is I'll ask the team, how is it that
Hmm.
we can make this better? What is it
Yeah.
that you think needs to be better? And bring them into the conversation, because a lot of times they have some great ideas, but
Hmm.
nobody's been listening before. So,
Yeah.
and even if the doctor was listening, if that other person that was embezzling, they didn't want anything to do with it. So for some
Right.
reason, they would find it didn't work, you know.
Mm.
So,
That's a good point. And I think too that's a really good method just for approaching your team to just ask that question, really open-ended, because usually I think the things people say, they're usually driven out of a need to solve a problem. So their response directly correlates to what they believe the problem is. And
that's
so
right.
if they don't believe there's a problem here, their response isn't going to match.
Right, right. Yeah.
I think that's really clever,
Yeah.
Janice. Smart lady, you.
Well, and sometimes, the doctor or the practice owner, they don't even know what the problems
Hmm.
are because they're busy doing dentistry.
Right.
They're not sitting at the front desk or, you
Yeah.
know, um, sitting there when somebody's ordering and that kind of thing. You have to get that input from the whole team. The other part of that is making sure that they're being listened to. Sometimes I'll have people say, I'm not going to say anything.
Hmm.
Well,
I've
because
seen that.
anytime I've said something, I get somebody yells at me or nobody pays attention, whatever. So you got to make sure that everybody gets an equal footing for that to be able to give their ideas. Even if you don't go with their ideas, it's
Right.
nice to be heard.
Yeah. I think that brings up another culture challenge in the dental industry is there are a lot of disconnected practice owners
Right.
who are doing their thing and they're like someone else is dealing with that. Do you have any advice on how they start to create a more connected culture where people can feel like how do you start that conversation? We've never listened to you in the past, but today we want to. How
Yeah.
do you start that?
Well, that is sometimes that's a little tough because
Yeah.
it just depends on how that relationship was in the past. But I
Hmm.
do think basically having that conversation, I understand these are the mistakes we've made in the
Yeah.
past. Own up to that. It's okay to
Hmm.
admit we've made mistakes. We all do, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this is the way we want to do it moving forward. This is what we're looking to do. Sometimes, I've had offices that some people had trouble telling you what it was they thought needed to be done. And we put an agenda up in the break room, and then they would
Hmm.
write on there what topic they wanted to be brought up. And so
Mm, okay.
so that seemed to help too because it was like then it was on the agenda and it was going to be brought up no matter what. So,
That's smart.
yeah, works well.
I like that. In a dental office, one of the biggest challenges is having a team that works together for a common goal, believe it or not.
Yes.
And
All going in
being
the right direction.
yeah, and creating that culture where it fosters those types of
Right.
relationships. So I think too, one point people can take away from this podcast episode is if you don't know how to get that conversation started,
Yes.
contact Janice and her
Yes,
team at
please. Would love to.
GTS, and you guys can be the catalyst.
Right. And that is what happens a lot of times is, you know,
Yeah.
if they hire us, that's what we're going to do is get the
Mhm.
conversation started.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we go into offices and it's like, oh God, you know, you can tell they don't want you there.
Right.
And I tell everybody, they're hugging me by the time I leave because I'm there to make everyone's job easier. That's what I want to do.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
want you to smile while you're at work and not have that grimace on your face all day.
Right. Right.
So,
Listen, we know it's painful. Everyone has a pain point. Let's
right.
solve it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
That's amazing. Anything else you want to share with our listeners, Janice?
Oh gosh.
So much.
I know. I'm like, yeah, not that I can think of right now, but you know, call me or email me, and I'm happy to help with any questions that anybody might have.
100%. We'll make sure that your contact info is available somewhere in the link here for the podcast. And just a personal cheerleader. I think you're amazing. I think your team has done great work. I love that you're system oriented and process and consistency, all of that.
Yes.
It's definitely needed in the dental space because let's face it, we're doing the same stuff every day. So
right.
Might as well be consistent.
That's right. That's right. Make sure we're getting the same results, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's been such a pleasure doing this with you, Janice. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
Love it.
My pleasure. Looking forward to working with you more in the future.
Yes, me too. Thank you.